coming back to kind of the time that we're in, right? Some companies have scaled back DEI efforts, so diversity, equity, inclusion efforts in recent years due to the political thinking about our neighbors south of us, also movements that are building here. What is your response to organizations that are viewing DEI as optional rather than essential?
First of all, this is such a topical conversation. We just came from our 3-day conference at the BTI Ignite conference here in Toronto. And this was a topical conversation there because we are watching what is happening south of the border. We are seeing the flashy headlines, and there's some sort of a panic happening, right? So one of the things that came out of our conference is we've been asked to no longer use the acronym DEI and just to say it out: diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? No one can be opposed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. No one can be opposed to having a workspace that's accessible to someone on a wheelchair. No one can be opposed to having a workplace that has breaks during the day to have lunch or to use the washroom, right? The work that we're doing around diversity, equity, and inclusion is about human rights. This work has been going on for centuries. This work has been going on in workplaces for decades, right? And so when we talk about being compliant to human rights, we're talking about DI work, right? I don't know if it's a surprise to folks, but human rights is DI work. And so for organizations that seem to be scaling back, I say we're watching. We know that the bottom line will be affected. We've seen the bottom line affected when people boycott organizations that are not supporting community work, that are not supporting human rights work. I think that those who need to do the work will stay and do the work. We want people who are serious about human rights work to do human rights work because there's no barometer of how much is to be done. The injustices that we see in the workplace, the systemic barriers that we see in the workplace have existed for decades and decades. And I think that the work that we need to do to reverse them is going to take a long time. And so we need to be committed. We need to keep to our strategies. We need to keep doing the work because human rights work is DEI work.